Well, speaking of the man in the top left side of Romanticide, we're looking at the main base of the Finnish phenom himself, one of the greatest StarCraft 2 players of all time. It is Serral.
And in the bottom right-hand side, it is the red TErran player for Cosmos. It is souL. This is oh, I love it. Oh, this is okay. This is not just any hatchery, Roddy. I know it's gonna sound like I have a massive ego right now, Roddy. But this is, I mean, 3 hatch before pool with a hatchery block is something that I have been doing since like 2015, and it's the first time I see it executed, much less by anyone like Serral. So I'm very excited for this.
Now, souL should be aware of the fact that this hatchery is a little bit later than if it would have been an immediate hatchery, correct? Like, even if it's only 7 or 10 seconds, obviously this was not hatched first on the other side of the map. Serral built his own hatchery on his side of the map. So I guess it's very important for souL that he doesn't overreact to this. Am I correct?
Yeah, this is, I mean, the way that I usually do this is I try to get a queen out from this hatchery. I try to make zerglings so that they protect the queen and time the zerglings with the queen. So you want to wait until you have 3 larvae, have 6 zerglings pop out at the same time, and make sure that that queen gets out to drop a creep tumor. If you drop the creep tumor, you're in a fantastic position. And it's difficult not to drop the creep tumor is what I found.
It's difficult not to drop it, so it's easy?
Yeah, it's easy. Like,
okay.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah, it's easy. It's relatively easy. I mean, if they pull SCVs or something like that, you have to adapt. Yeah. But given the circumstances, I think this might be enough. Though Serral will have to, I think, make at least 2 zerglings before when the second larva pops up, because the hatchery is getting a little bit low.
I actually don't think this queen is gonna pop. I think this hatchery is going to die. I think that Serral was hoping that souL would go for a Reaper first, but it was Marines first, and obviously souL even made a second barrack, so he had a couple of Marines immediately. This is going to be really close, but I don't think this queen is going to pop, so it is, well, it's, no,
it's
right?
So close, but yeah, I think Serral needed to absorb some damage with the links. Like, he needed to make 2 zerglings when he had 2 larvae instead of 3, because souL opened with Marine instead of Reaper. But he waited for the 3rd larva, because if those links soak up just enough damage where maybe you die with 1 link, then the queen pops up.
And then he would have been able to drop that creep tumor like you mentioned, and then souL wouldn't be able to expand for a while, would be probably forced to drop a couple scans unless you want to wait for a Raven, but that takes centuries. So, I mean, if this is not Serral against souL, I'd be like, this is pretty bad for the tournament. This really didn't work out, but I have learned not to doubt Serral too early, even if he's on 50 supply. I don't really doubt him. Okay, there he gets the easiest Reaper kill we have ever seen. That was a bit sloppy by souL.
Yeah, the good thing about that hatchery still is that it's the 3rd hatchery. It's not a super overcommitment. You know, it's not obviously the 2nd hatchery, so Serral has had pretty good mining on his side of the map this entire time, but obviously, if you get that creep tumor, you're just in such an amazing position. But as it stands, Serral's not in a terrible spot. It's not unwinnable.
Gotta say, it's a pretty marvelous race when you can just build and expand on the other side of the map, lose it, and still be in a great spot. What do you think about that, Kat?
I wouldn't say a great spot. I would say, I mean, if I was playing against souL, I'd feel like, okay, I'm probably dead. But like you were saying, it's Serral, you know? So he's at a slight deficit, but it's not unrecoverable by any means.
Yeah, Serral's economy is looking mighty fine as he's up 9 workers, even though souL is playing a triple orbital opening. He actually, wow, a zergling apparently just made it into the main base. So Serral gets the perfect scout off as well without losing in Overlord. But I guess the biggest downside for all of this for Serral is that his tech is going to be very late, right? Late tech, late upgrades.
Yeah, that is the bigger thing. He did get the gases relatively early, so he is getting very fast upgrades. But like you said, the tech is delayed, and that's important too.
souL is probably going to try to get a little bit of damage done eventually with the Hellions, but the Hellions are a bit too precious right now to just throw them away. They really serve a great purpose in keeping that creep at bay. And if souL does want to make a proper push with Marine Tank and then maybe sneak a Liberator into the natural, then it is important that creep is not too far out yet.
Yeah, and this is really good crit threat, obviously on the side of Serral, as you would expect. And it is a pretty difficult map to attack into with the Hellions as well. There's a lot of chokes like you see here and leading into the 3rd as well, plus those minerals that Serral is now opening up potentially to take a 5th later.
I mean, I gotta say, it looks good for Serral on paper, as long as he doesn't mess up against the first proper push. He's up 13 workers, he's got double evos running, and lair tech is on the way. I don't really see any reason why this wouldn't be good for Serral.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Another thing that we could talk about as far as the hatchery is concerned is that souL was making Marines one at a time in order to stop it and non-stop. So that means no reactor, for example, for a little while. So the Hellions were a little bit delayed. And it's kind of like a good thing, I think, to throw wrenches into players like souL who are very methodical. So yeah, I think he maybe was a little bit confused even because he doesn't seem to have much of an advantage card from that.
That's very bad use of your Liberator. souL not really paying attention, sieging it up on top of a Spore Crawler. The Queens were there as well. I just can't really make any errors like this against somebody like Serral. It's just a single Liberator, but it is very important if you want to defeat Serral that he is chasing you, not the other way around. If you have one unit, you need to get proper value out of it. Even if it's not kills, you want to be able to distract Serral, keep him busy, force him to spend some actions on dealing with this Liberator. Throwing away a single unit like that, I honestly think is a very big deal against, well, the great Jonas Satala.
Yeah, especially when it's really kind of the first time that you get to be somewhat aggressive. The Hellions haven't accomplished anything. They really haven't gotten to even deny creep, which is something that they usually manage to do. It's not an easy map to do it on because of all the ramps and chokes. But yeah, definitely. That Liberator was the first poke. This is the second poke, but now Serral is so well prepared for it.
Yep, the Marines are not really able to accomplish anything other than 1 or 2 creep tumors. 2-2 upgrades now already on the way for Serral, who has a Overseer in the bottom of the main base of souL as well, and he is going to spot all these additional barracks being built. Going from 3 barracks to 8 barracks is pretty standard, but I feel like this entire map is going to be consumed by creep soon. Serral is already at the drone count, I'd say, where you'd like to be if you want to play a style like this. 83 drones, 4 bases. This is starting to look like a one-sided affair, but I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, same. There is also Hydras coming out for Serral, so we can see that he's comfortable with kind of just sitting back for a little bit potentially. souL getting a little bit of lag, so we're going to get a short pause. So let's just hold on here. But yeah, Serral, I think with the amount of creep that he has and the way that he has been working around the map, kind of killing those rocks, for example, with all of his units and mining the minerals and just opening the map, I think he's okay and comfortable just being defensive. He's taking a 5th right now, and he's going into Hydra. So it's going to be on souL to make something happen, and it's looking difficult.
Yeah, when I'm looking at people going up against Serral, I always look at things that I feel they could maybe do better, because you know there's no room for errors. When you play against Serral, when you play against Raynor, European scene, you are not allowed to make mistakes. A little mistake here for souL as well is that the E-base have finished up upgrading 1-1 for a while, but then his armory was only like 10% done. And once again, normally you don't win or lose a game on these kinds of things, but every second matters. And casually giving Serral like 20 additional seconds before your 2-2 upgrades eventually not even get ahead, but catch up. I think those are mistakes that you're not supposed to make.
Absolutely. Some of these players are so close to perfect that if you're not near it, then, you know, those mistakes are going to pile up and it's just going to be more and more difficult. Now, souL is the one that's trying to break some rocks around so that he can maybe enter this position, but it's not even a position that's easily contestable or a position that you easily want. The minerals have already been mined for Serral on the other side, so the tanks are not going to be super useful to take advantage of that choke that normally exists here, and he is kind of wide open in the middle of nowhere, so...
Serral's got 35 banelings out on the map. He's got 12 additional banelings. He's sending a lot of zerglings to counterattack. The tanks have not sieged up yet. And on creep, this fight can never end well for souL. I mean, this is a massacre. There's no other way to put it. souL barely killed a unit there, and the only thing that really went down for Serral are all the banelings he rolled into the bio.
Yeah, that's an incredible amount of stuff for Serral. I mean, he didn't even use the zerglings until the very end, right? He was looking for reinforcements or potentially for a counterattack, and then the zerglings just come in at the very end to say, hey, look, I also have 80 zerglings.
There's only 2 tanks remaining. I mean, and normally you don't want to attack here off creep when you know there are tanks potentially on the high ground as well, but the E-base could be in a bit of trouble. The zerglings need to make room for the banelings, and Serral, wow, there's no stopping him. Serral's just going to end the game here, cats. He really doesn't have to. He's getting Hive on the way. He's getting a lot of extra units, but just like that, it is already 1-0 for Serral.
All right, so we are loaded in, and this is already kind of a weird game. Serral is not going to be mining more than... he is going to go past 100 gas, actually. which is surprising. Is this a Baneling bust, Roddy? I don't know.
Yeah, he keeps 2 drones on the extractor. I'm almost tempted to say that it is. Now, Soul is going to get an SCV scout, and he will spot the Zerglings. What he doesn't spot, though, is the extractor. And seeing that A, Serral is still mining gas, and B, the amount of gas that has been mined up to this point, which is a very important big tell at this level. You always want to click on extractors to see approximately when your opponent took their gas and how much they've been mining of it.
Yeah, and this is such a strange opening on the side of Serral. So souL is really deprived for information. He's trying to look for what he can with the SCV, but the Reaper is tucked back and staying back because there is this 4 Zerglings as a threat out on the map. So he is not going to scout that gas. I'm just not seeing anything from Serral wanting to use that gas at the moment. It seems like he's just comfortable banking it for now.
Go for a very quick lair then, right? That's the only thing that makes sense.
I'm not sure what makes sense here, to be completely honest. I think maybe he's just banking it for later in the game. Maybe he just decided that mining gas with two workers is good if you already have the gas or something of the sort for this game. Because I'm not sure, if you make a lair right now, you have to add even more gases, and I don't think his economy can really sustain that unless he's going for a super Nidus all-in or something.
Well, he's going up to 3 bases, so that doesn't seem to be the case. Zergling speed has finished up, and Serral has now picked off 2 SCVs already. One was obviously out on the map. The other one gets taken out in the natural, but it is weird. It may not seem like that big of a deal. It's like, okay, you mine a bit more gas than they normally do. But obviously, drones that are mining gas are not mining minerals, so this does really slow you down. And we all know how Zerg economies snowball, and there we go. There is a Roach Warren a lot quicker than we normally see it.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Roaches, potentially maybe into Ravagers. This should be pretty all-in-y, I guess, from Serral, because he does have this gas and he wants to make use of it relatively soon, I think. His economy is not amazing. It is 7 workers ahead still of souL. But souL, of course, has the orbital commands to work with. So let's see what happens. There's a medevac as well out for souL. Kind of a weird one as well. Curveball.
You know, what I don't understand is why Zerg players, and even Serral did it here, send their Overlord back when it's like 100,000% sure that it's going to die. Why wouldn't you send it forward so maybe you still see something else? I mean, I guess he already saw there was no add-on on the starport, but maybe you get lucky and you see what unit pops out of the starport, or you see a fusion core that's being built. I don't think he would have seen it this time, but it really makes no sense to send it back when it's guaranteed to die anyway.
Yeah, completely agreed. Sometimes it's just a thing of, you know, like the reflex, and you don't want to spend the APM, I guess, correcting the course because it's so low value that you stand to gain. But I agree, if you can do it, you should do it.
All right. So I don't think he spotted those Ravagers yet, right? He's
no,
building...
I don't believe he has.
Oh my. He is sending the medevac home though, so it's almost like souL is expecting something. He's like, something just doesn't feel quite right. But I don't really know what it is. The Reaper and the 4 Hellions are still active on the other side of the map. So he's gonna dive in, but the only thing he spots there is a Queen. This is the very first time that he spots the Roaches and Ravagers that are knocking on his front door. He is building a battlecruiser, but cats, that's gonna take a little while.
Yeah, it's gonna take a long time. It is not nearly halfway done even, so Serral's gonna have his way in this natural where he is able to deny mining, maybe try to go up the ramp as well. Now, souL is trying to maybe flank around with some Hellions, and this could be enough, actually, with the Marine DPS as well. Not going after the Ravagers right away, though. That's the bulk of the DPS from Serral. Yet still, souL is going to get a nice cleanup from this little poke.
Yeah, it did take quite a bit of economic damage, though, right? And he lost all the supply depots, so at this point, souL is heavily supply blocked. And Serral's already active with a couple of Zerglings out on the mech. If Serral sees these units leave, he's probably going to run into the natural. It's almost like he knows. He saw the medevac leave there. He's sending a single Zergling forward. He's like, can I dive in? The answer is yes, Serral, you can. And souL is just going to take even more economic damage here.
Yeah, souL is going to have to go for basically a counter all-in at this point. He's going to lose all the SCVs at the natural. Just lift off the supply depots at the main at this point and see if you can straight kill out your opponent with this push. Because if you can't, you are pretty much dead.
This is a proper army, though, by souL, right? A lot of Hellbats. The Queens are a little bit clumped up. The Hellbat's not really shooting at the Queens yet, though. There we go. There is a Spore Crawler helping out as well, and I feel that all that Serral really needs to do is get a nice amount of damage on this battlecruiser, and I actually think this is more than enough. Look at these supplies. 100 supply left for Serral, only 42 for souL. I mean, Serral is incredibly good when he's playing normal, but at this point, he's like, no, I'm not even going to give you the luxury of playing a normal game. I'm going to do whatever I can